911, where's your emergency?
731, traffic crash, Catlett and Eustis.
Fully involved.
Fox 1030.
Single family.
Fox 440 for the traffic crash at Winchester Road, Old Tavern Road, at exit 4, medic 4, wagon 1.
On scene. Single vehicle in the roadway. Heavy damage to the roof.
Welcome to Reminiscing with Virginia chapter of APCO 911 History Makers, a special continuation of APCO International's Reminiscing with the History Maker series. Here at the 2025 Virginia APCO Conference, we're taking a closer look at the people behind our story, our senior and life members whose dedication, innovation, and leadership have both shaped our chapter and the field of public safety communications. Through these conversations, we celebrate their accomplishments and preserve their memories for future generations. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Bill Hobgood. So let's start at the beginning. When did you first join APCO?
So I joined APCO in 1999, and that's when I started paying my membership dues. And that was before they had the organizational membership. But I had attended 3 APCO conferences prior to 1999, and I was happy with it. And I said, gee, I need to continue with APCO.
So during your time with APCO, what agencies have you been a part of?
So I worked at VCU Police for 2 years as a dispatcher, and then I went with Richmond as a senior communication officer in 1974.
Wow.
And I dispatched for a few years. I really was, I had the initiative to write some manuals for our teletype section. And I enjoyed working the fire radio, and those are 2 specialized positions and not everybody can work. So one day the chief of communications came up to me, and this was probably 1978, and he said, would you like to coordinate with a programmer from data processing to write a computer-aided dispatch system for us, for the Richmond? And I said, sure, chief, I'll do whatever you need me to. So the day came, and there was no programmers available in what that department at the time was called data processing. Today it's information technology. And so they sent me up to the police computer room where uniformed police officers were coding their records management system. And they gave me a stack of manuals like that. And then they put me in front of a dumb terminal. No PCs back then. And they said, just go through some of this stuff and, you know, try the commands and see what they do. So that's what I did. That's how I learned it. We did take a couple of trips up to Massachusetts. Boston had a computer-aided dispatch system, and that was written in the assembler language. And that should have been enough to scare me off right there. But fortunately, the language that I wrote the Richmond system in was Business Basic, which was much easier than assembler.
Okay.
And over a 2-year period, I started on it in 1979. The CAD system was online in 1981. And talking about a world of difference in the technology, I mean, we had big disk drives that looked like washing machines with the platters where you could pull the whole disk pack out, and that was like 300 megabytes. You know, I got a thumb drive in my pocket right now that has 128 gigabytes. It's just amazing the difference that has come about in technology.
Yep.
You know, our phones have a lot more horsepower than the computers back in 1978 had. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it was March the 31st, I think, 1981. And we brought the police dispatch function online, and right behind that, fire, and then I did the EMS piece as well, a few months after that. But it was used for 26 years. I was on call for 26 years with very little help at all. And today, I mean, it's like they have a team of, gee whiz, 9 or 10 people to support the CAD and other things technology related. But yeah, it was quite an exciting, era. When I started dispatching at Richmond, there was not 911 at Richmond. There was 649 9111, or we told the public to dial the operator, if they had an emergency. And that was the two methods to reach us. And then I think we went to basic 911 in December of 1978.
Okay.
So that was our first exposure to 911. Of course, 911 came up in Alabama back in the 60s, but we didn't have it in the Richmond area. And then I believe it was 1985, I believe we went to enhanced 911. And that was definitely new to all of us. I mean, with the basic 911, the only thing you have the ability to do was you could press a button and ring the caller back, but we didn't get any type of alley display or anything like that. Of course, with enhanced 911, we get what they get today, with the alley display and Annie and all that. So that was definitely some neat times to see all that, experience all that. And then the radio systems, we went to embark on the mobile data bandwagon in 1998. And the fire department wanted to do it. And at that time, I don't know if the police chief was not an innovative chief, but they just didn't want to do it at that time. So we focused on the fire department, and we went to look at some mobile data systems, and we ended up putting in mobile data for the fire department.
Oh, wow.
Of course, after that guy, then the police wanted it.
Yeah.
Right. It's always the case. But yeah, we traveled to look at some sites that were representative of mobile data, and we actually installed base stations around the city because we did Motorola's RD lap technology. Where went across the airwaves. It was like I think 19,200 bits per second, something like that. In today's terms, that's pretty slow, but it did the job back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the terminals that were put in the fire trucks, they were Motorola 9100 dumb terminals, but again, they function very well. And of course, today, I think all those dumb terminals are gone. The RD lab system is gone. Now we're using cellular devices, and the let's see, we have trying to think. We have the cellular, and they do have smart devices now, like Data 911, Panasonic laptops, things like that. And of course, as they travel, their positions are being tracked all the time. Other units can see all this on their computers now. So it certainly has evolved really good. Yeah.
You've seen some really neat things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I'm very proud, I'm proud of it all, because eventually in the year 2000, Data General, which was the hardware manufacturer that supported our CAD, our first CAD that I wrote, they announced that they were going out of business, and they did. So we knew that we were going to have to replace the CAD because parts were going to get hard to get. And we we got at that time, emergency communications was under the police portfolio. So the police applied for a budget for a new CAD system. And I think 3 years in a row, they were rejected with their budget requests. And finally, Captain Linda Samuel, who was the captain in charge of communications at that time, she stood before City Council, and this was probably 2004 by then. She stood before City Council and she says, I've asked for this money repeatedly, and I said, if you don't give it to me this year, and if that CAD system breaks, we're going back to pen and paper. So that did the trick. She got in a little trouble over that, but it did the trick. She got $3 million. Now, $3 million wouldn't get you much of a CAD system today, but back then it got us what we needed. And I got to manage that project. So we put out an RFP. And with all the requirements, and the very first requirement that was in the RFP, it says the new system has to do everything that the old system does.
Nice. Smart.
Yeah, so I think we had 7 or 8 responses from the different vendors, and then we had 2 finalists, and eventually Intergraph at that time, they won the award, but they had to reproduce everything that was in that CAD system that I wrote. And one of those things was back then it was known as the External Alarm Interface Exchange. Today it's known as ASAP. But this is where the alarm companies can now send all the data about an alarm directly to the CAD system without having to pick up the telephone and call and wait for somebody to answer the call. So it's very fast. And I did that first interface at Richmond, which I'm very proud of. It's kind of taken off across the country. I know that we have at least 160 sites up around the country right now, and 24 of those are here in Virginia. So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, I bet.
And somebody asked me and said, well, how did Virginia, kind of lead the pack? I said, because I live here. I've been fortunate. All the years that I attended the Virginia APCO conferences here, I talked about it. Year after year, I put in proposals to do a presentation on what today is known as ASAP, and I did that a lot. It may have been 1 or 2 years that the proposal wasn't accepted. I said, okay, well, it's time for a break then. But yeah, that's worked out very well, and happy with that. Today, Mission Critical Partners is managing the ASAP service for the Monitoring Association, and they're starting to make some changes, probably for the better, because right now the alarm companies have to connect to the ASAP service, which is co-located with inlets in Phoenix, Arizona, and everything is ORI driven. So it looks at the ORI when they send the alarm message, and of course inlet says, okay, well, if it starts with VA, then it goes to Virginia, and Virginia looks at the rest of the ORI, and through their cross-reference tables, they know that this alarm message needs to go to Richmond, for example.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it works very well. And I think that, right now they're doing something that may take inlets out of the picture, because there's a few state control points around the country that just haven't bought into this whole idea of transmitting the alarms through their state control point into inlets. So this is like a direct connect method, where it would not go through inlets, but it would go directly to a new ASAP service, and they would have a connectivity directly to the PSAP without having to go through any other points of failure or anything like that. So that might be a good thing. Yep.
That would be something to be proud of.
Yeah.
That's a great accomplishment, yeah.
Yeah, and the project has won, gee whiz, I've lost count of the number of awards that it's won, I'm thinking probably 15 or something like that.
Very neat.
One year I was announced as a Computer World laureate and attended a nice presentation ceremony up in Washington, D.C., where they hang a medal on you, you know. You go up on stage and you get this medal. And I mean, a lot of people did, but that was nice. And particularly the people at NEAM and the IGES Institute, they were just very enthused about this ASAP project. I remember when the head of the PMO office at NEAM, she was giving out awards one time. It was the NEAM Hall of Fame, and she was focusing on the different winners. And then she got to this one, and she says, "Whoever would have envisioned that somebody's breaking into your house, and that information goes directly to the police, and they start responding instantly."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget those words.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So you've shared a lot of my questions already, so this is great. In your view, what does APCO do best that sets it apart from other organizations?
I think APCO does a great job of supporting telecommunicators. I think that I know that they lobby on behalf of the telecommunicators. That's a real plus. It's not an organization that is run by vendors, but it is run for the telecommunicators. And I just think they do a good job at doing that.
Has your involvement with APCO influenced your professional journey in public safety?
Probably so. I mean, I had a choice. I guess between APCO and another professional organization, I decided to go to the APCO conferences for starters, and I was really impressed with that. I did try to speak a couple of times at the other conferences sponsored by the other organization, and they didn't buy into this ASAP program, but APCO did. In fact, when we first started the ASAP project, of course, we implemented it at Richmond and York County, and then next up was going to be Houston and Washington, D.C., and APCO was actually under their purview. We're managing those projects. They were bringing in that revenue for my time to help implement with those, because I joined up as a contractor with APCO in 2012. And that's when I started working on those implementations.
So looking back, what have been some of your favorite activities or moments, either with the Virginia APCO chapter or the national level?
Oh gosh, all the places that National has been to. Baltimore was great this year. Boston, when they did go to Boston years ago, that was great. Enjoyed that. But, I had a director in information technology, and she was, I won't say she was tough, but she ruled with an iron fist. And when people asked to go to conferences and things like that, she says, "Okay, but if I find out that you played hooky and didn't attend some sessions or something like that, you'll never go to another one." Well, I remember that. And I always attended everything I could when I went to the conferences. And APCO has so much to offer, not only at the Virginia chapter conferences, but at the international as well. And I'm so impressed if I can't see everything at over the course of the conference, I go ahead and just buy the sessions, the recordings, and try to listen to them later. But it's just so much that they offer, and that's kind of what I remember. All the things that they offered in the way of training, the different places they've been to.
As Next Gen 911 continues to evolve, what do you think APCO should focus on to remain a leader in emerging technologies?
Well, we certainly have to focus on Next Gen 911. Have to maintain our place there, and we need to be aware of emerging technologies. I know that ASAP has been around for a while now, but it's still emerging because there are changes being made to it, while all the whole time making it backwards compatible. So that's a good thing. But I think that if APCO keeps focus on emerging technologies, that would be the thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for your time and your dedication to this industry and your assistance with the ASAP program, and thank you.
Well, glad to help.
Appreciate it.